Hey there, how are you doing? It's Louisa here with Feel Good Astrology, and I'm looking at the full moon in Scorpio. So it's coming up, it's in a week's time on the 12th of May. And, the sign of Scorpio, if we think about the main themes of Scorpio, there's the idea of fears and power and deep attachment to our emotions, a real sort of fixed, attracting energy. And also what's hidden, what we need to keep hidden, what we might need to keep underground a little bit, the secrecy side of it. So this full moon in opposition to Uranus could really blow apart some of our most valued secrets, or the things that maybe we've been hiding from ourselves. And I really see this in this full moon. So what I'm going to do in this video of roughly about 40 minutes is uncover the overall patterns of the actual full moon itself. Then also have a look at the asteroids that are playing into this. And by asteroids, what I'm referring to is Aphrodite in a conjunction with the sun, Narcissus in a conjunction with the moon. And we've also got the centaur Chariklo and the asteroid Pallas Athene in a T-square with all of it. So I'm going to be uncovering that and interpreting that, and also looking at the two Sabian symbols for the sun and the moon. So let's see where this journey takes us. I really think we're going to be awakening to our hidden self. I really do think there's going to be a feeling of our soul rising. We're shedding our old skin. And there's really this sense of the power of who we've forgotten we already are. So let's see what comes up. And I'll catch you at the other end. So I'm bringing up my slides. And like I said, going to be looking at the aspects, the Sabian symbols, and also the named asteroids and anything else that shows up. I mean, I like to keep this as fluid as possible. Before I get going, I just want to say thank you to anyone who has supported the channel and supported my work. I really, really adore you. Thank you so much. Anyway, let's have a look at this chart. So I've set this chart with a London time zone, because I live in the London time zone. I live in Portugal, and we've got the same time zone. But the main reason is because it's the mid time zone between all of the time zones around the world. That's the midpoint. And of course, astrologers really love midpoints. So it's the average point. This is the chart that I think is going to speak the most to everybody. So here you can see the full moon is at 22 degrees in the sign of Scorpio, and the sun here is at 22 degrees in the sign of Taurus, which it always is. They're always exactly opposite. And you've got Uranus at 26:59. First thing, well, there's a lot of things, but the first thing I notice is that there's a lot of planetary placements at the end of signs and right at the beginning of signs. So for instance, out of all of these points, we've got the moon, we've got the north node Saturn, we've got Chiron, we've got the sun, Uranus, Jupiter, and also the south node, all really at the end of a sign. And then we've got Pluto and Neptune and Mercury right at the beginnings. And so because of that, it's creating a lot of aspects. You'll see all of these connections. These are called aspects. So we've got these trines, these sextiles, these shorter blue lines. We've got squares galore with these short red lines. And then we've got oppositions coming in as well. So I'm going to be talking you through some of these challenging aspects and what that might mean, and also some of these easy ones, and also the potentizing, the ones that are creating lots of potential, lots of energetic outbursts. For instance, we've got this really strong stellium. To be fair, we've had this for quite some time now, and it's changed and evolved over the last couple of months quite considerably, but it's still ongoing. So that's worth sort of bearing in mind. We've also got this, this is a very wide conjunction between Chiron and Mercury, but more to the point, we've got this one here, which is, I think, going to give this full moon quite a lot of clout. So let's have a deeper look. So the squares, the T-square and the oppositions, this is all the slightly more challenging aspects of this particular full moon and what it might mean. So we've got Mars, Pluto and Mercury in a T-square. I think, things are changing. Like Mars and Pluto were in an opposition pretty much in and out of that exact opposition since the end of October up until very recently. They're now just coming out. Mars is slowly moving away from being in this opposition, but they showed a lot of tension about our will to survive and thrive in these times. Like, how can we make it on our own? How can we feel sovereign? How can we feel like we've got some advocacy for ourselves? How can we absolutely make it on our own without I think what these times have been bringing up in this last 6 months is this desire that maybe we can't trust the governments of the world, maybe we can't trust the religions, maybe we can't trust anyone. Pluto can be quite a shady character, and he can also really show us where we need to transform. And so I think this has really shown us where we need to take ownership of our lives and to be a lot more in our lives in terms of, for instance, we had a massive power outage across Portugal and Spain and parts of France for a day last week. And what we came to realize is, if our power goes down, how do we survive? How do we make things work? It wasn't just a short one. This was across like 2 countries. 2 whole countries were out power. That was quite a big thing. Obviously, if you're in different parts of America and different parts of the world, power outages are quite normal. But how do we organize our lives so that anything that is coming in from our governments that may be less than stellar, where things aren't managed very well, where we don't feel people are advocating for us, how do we feel like we can thrive and survive? And so this has been a really, really strong energy over the last 6 months. And with this T-square, a couple of weeks ago, this T-square was really going on with Chiron here, but it's really showing up with Mercury, and it's Mercury in the 7th on this London chart. But Mercury here is really suggesting that the more we talk, the more we start to articulate what's going on for us, this struggle will seem to tease out. So, we can't lose our governments. We can't lose all those people that are trying to, in England right now, there are the English government have just released information that they're going to blanket the sky to cover out the sun so that the sun can't cause global warming, and at the same time is installing masses and masses of global solar farms. So it's kind of contradictory. And if I was in the UK right now, I might be thinking, what the hell is going on? Why would you do 2 opposing things at the same time? It makes no sense. So, the kinds of struggles that we might see in our lives right now, where we feel like we don't have any choice, the more we talk about it, the more we open up about it, the more we're clearing our thinking about it. It's in those conversations that true dynamics of what we might need or how we might do it come up. All the time we keep it in our head, nothing is truly changing. But once we start to talk about what we're afraid of, and I really mean talk, not like shout each other down. One thing I noticed really since the start of COVID, like all those years ago, that there has been this encroachment on simple discussions. Like lots of people have been using those ad hominem attacks rather than engaging in real conversations. So I think at the time of this full moon in Scorpio, which is likely to really cause a lot of tension, actually what we're needing is this sense of openness, that we can talk together without name calling, without damning each other, but actually trying to understand each other. So I like this. Taurus, the Taurus Mercury energy is really grounded and calm and peaceful. Taurus energy doesn't want to be up in arms with people. The Taurus energy is about being calm and peaceful and stable and grounded and quite practical. So hopefully this will be coming up for all of us, and it might not be about world affairs. It might be about what's going on for you. So for instance, if you feel like you have been ill or you've been caught in different circumstances and yet you're trying to break free of it, talking about it is the thing that could really, really change things. We've also got like Jupiter and the nodes in a T-square. And so you've got the South node and the North node, and then Jupiter in this like in the middle, really Obviously Jupiter is a planet to do with faith and religion, as well as how we can feel good about ourselves, how we can expand, how we can feel on top of the world, how we can feel buoyant, how we can feel joy. And I think freedom is also something that Jupiter, like the energy of Jupiter, really wants to bring about. And so we may well have memories of the past, the South Node, and actions in the past, things we've done in the past, things that we've since reflected on, and we're thinking, yeah, that's not really me anymore. And then we've got our future aspirations and the things that we might be sort of struggling on a little bit, represented by the North Node and Jupiter in the middle. Now, Jupiter can inflame things when things are a little bit tense. And so I think really what's going on right now is this intense reflection period of recognizing where we might have been in the past. And by the past, I could just mean last week. Right now I'm letting go of a lot of things that just a week ago I was fully right on about. I was really, really committed to things coming up. And so we can change just like that. But where we are changing, we are looking back at where we were in the past and thinking, wow, my consciousness has really changed. Something is really, really changing. And that can inflame. Jupiter can inflame, like an inflammation is where things are getting bigger, and Jupiter is emphasizing things. But it's important to recognize that whatever is coming up and coming up in a big way, it's to help you see where you were and where you're going. So it's helpful to see you on your journey. So there is this energy of becoming more sovereign in yourself and feeling like you're less jerked around by anything that might appear to have an outside power over you. And there's also this sense of recognizing the parts of you that are no longer relevant. Now, that doesn't mean to say you have to judge yourself badly or put yourself down, because that really isn't helpful. But if you can sort of integrate, you can recognize, okay, that was a part of me. It's not anymore, but I can take the lessons of it. I can recognize that me was coming from a good place. I'm still coming from a good place. Just our perspectives change. And we've also got, obviously the sun and the moon are in an opposition. In fact, let me just talk about that a little bit. So the sun and the moon, obviously at the time of the full moon, we're in a full illumination phase. The moon is big and it's bright and everything can be seen. So if you think of the darkness of night, that's where, our darkness can hide. That's where things that we might not want to see are hidden. And so the full light of the moon, it brings everything clear and sharp into focus. And so we can get a little bit emotional because suddenly we see ourselves, we face ourselves, or we face everything, and the moon face is like a big face. So it's like there's nowhere to hide at the time of these full moons. Lots and lots of comes up. And I also think that the energy, as it's coming up to the full moon, it kind of whips along. It kind of is whipping upwards. It feels like there's this, I'm kind of trying to draw an air tornado. It starts small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and faster and faster. And that's how I see the energy coming up to the full moon. Whatever we've been working on and ignoring seems to catch up with us. Anything that we've been working on in good faith and we're seeing it and we're getting excited about it, that also comes up and gets really big. And you might find that even the good stuff gets a little bit too much at the time of the full moon. So there's a big too muchness of whatever is going on. And also with Uranus here, the sun and Uranus together, at the time, Uranus is always showing us what we're cutting away from and what we're learning and how we're changing and how we can change our consciousness quite quickly. It also shows us where life changes, but it's showing a cut. It's showing a break. It's showing that things aren't always smooth, that things can get really big and then you're like, okay, I'm done with that now. So we create a hard stop on something. That's a real Uranus thing. It shows change and it can show innovation, and it can also show channeling, like the energy. I mean, if you think of Uranus, look at it. It looks like a space invader or a Pac-Man. It's like a satellite. It's beaming energy down to us. So Uranus, like if we're open and we can tune into the frequencies of new consciousness, that can come in and in a blink of an eye, it changes us. So this is a big moment of change. And, the sun is about our personality or our identity. So to me, it feels like humanity is having this identity crisis whereby we may well just go, okay, I'm done with this now. We are cutting away. So it's huge. And then with the moon in Scorpio, what we're feeling is so integral. The the sign of Scorpio is known for deep loyalty. I wasn't sure which word I was going to say first, but loyalty, intensity, fixed attention. Scorpio is possibly the most possessive sign. It absolutely is quite acquisitive. It acquires things, these acquisitions, and it doesn't like to let go of the things it's held on to. And so, for instance, people with a strong moon in Scorpio can often get quite jealous or possessive, or feel really, really attached to the people around them. So there's a really strong attachment, an emotional attachment, an attachment that we've all had. And at the time of the full moon, it's like, I'm done with that attachment. Something else has come in, something else has awoken within me, and I'm done with it. I'm about to cut off from this. So that's, pretty strong. And then we got the quincunxes. We've got a few quincunxes. Now, I'm not listing all of them because, some of them are attached to this ascendant. I'm just talking planet to planet. And this one is a node to planet. So not everyone would count that. But a quincunx really shows where, it's a 150-degree angle. So if I had a point here, from here to here, it's a 150-degree angle in the middle. But it shows where, like, the south node, to do with our past, to do with what's come easy to us in the past, our memories, the orientation of our previous life, our early life, and the way it relates to us now and our healing. There's some tension. Like, there is this desire to be able to heal. There's a desire to be able to move forwards and to heal ourselves, to let go of things that aren't working for us. And here, this might show the past and what might not work for us, but it's not as simple as just letting go. There's still something there. And so, to me, I think the past is really showing us the blessing and the curse. It might be showing us things that wake us up and help us realize we've got something to heal, but it's also showing us, I think, what we've always had that is actually like, I think it's also showing us what is instinctively us. And, we might see part of our personality as something we want to heal, but it's actually who we are. How can you heal who you actually are? So to me, I think there's this sort of struggle, an identity struggle, where maybe there's a part of you that you've been demonizing or not quite comfortable with. And yet actually that's part of you. I want to reference Dr. Dane here, who talks about access consciousness. And there's something I've heard him talking about, like, what if the thing about you that you're embarrassed by, what if the wrongness of you is actually the rightness of you? That's what he says. So you might realize that you've had this reputation for being this and this, and it's almost like a curse, the curse you've come through life with. But that might be the rightness of you. That might be the thing that, if you were to work with and play with, that might be the thing that helps you move on. When we're growing up, we often hide the things that make us a little bit odd, or we try to normalize a little bit so we fit in. But what if we're coming to a time where the thing that was really odd about us is actually what's really right about us? It's our superpower. It's the thing that we want to bring forwards. So that may also come up around this time. That's my take on it anyway. Then we've also got this yod between Jupiter, Chiron, and the moon. Now, moon yods aren't that rare, because the moon moves around so fast and frequently. But the fact that at the time of this full moon, the moon is in a yod with Jupiter and Chiron is interesting. So, Jupiter and Chiron here are working really nicely together. They're in a sextile. So Jupiter is wanting to expand. Chiron is working on the healing. So we've got this sort of expanded healing energy going on. And the moon, like the the yod is also known as a finger of fate, and where it's pointing is showing that thing that needs to kind of, it's showing the way that the way out. And actually, what I really see here, as painful as it might sound, is that the way to move beyond the things that are ailing us, the things that we feel like we need to heal, is to feel it, is to feel it really strongly, is to go into it. It's not to avoid it. It's not to create a distraction. Whatever it is that you want to heal in yourself, you need to feel it. And that's what's really coming up with this moon, as far as I can see, this moon in Scorpio. It feels everything. And it's really, really attached. So it's like almost go into your story so much, so that you can actually get a bit sick of it. And then, boom, there is a change. Or it might be that you need to feel what has been ailing you so much so that you can actually finally release it. I'm aware that there's a book I need to read. I've seen it quoted a few times. The idea that the body weeps for the tears our eyes refuse to shed, or something like that. You know, the idea that our body is always keeping score. And, you know, sometimes things hurt us and we don't let them out because it feels like if we let it out, it's going to kill us. You know, I feel like, oh my God, I can't hold on to all that grief. And, you know, and so where we're refusing to grieve or let our emotions flow through us, our body keeps the score. Our body keeps it in there. Our body is holding on to it. And so I really get that this full moon is giving us a release, a really deep release of all these pent up emotions to get it moving. Now, that's the hard stuff. Let's go to the slightly easier stuff now. So we've got a lot of trine energy. We've got this trine between the moon and the north node, the moon and Saturn, the moon and Neptune. This is all, I think, really lovely because, you know, we can work with our emotions, we can work with what we're really attached to, and find a sense of release from it in terms of the North Node. It can help us to focus on what we're attached to and to really think it through. Saturn and the moon here helps us to be quite practical and to almost be an authority to ourselves, like parent ourselves. It's really quite supportive. I really like that. The moon and Neptune in a trine helps us with our imagination. So I actually think that if you are going through a healing process, you can use your imagination, you can parent yourself, you can look for practical solutions using your imagination. So what really is coming up for me is that it's not a one trick pony. Like, you know, there are lots of different ways to find your like to step out into a greater sense of freedom. We've also got a trine between Venus and Mars, which is really helping us to integrate the masculine and feminine within us and to find a bit more harmony between us and our partners, which I think is really, really cool. You know, maybe this is a time when we're really talking more to our partners, you know, where we are learning about the projections we put on each other, and sharing. And, you know, it might not be a partner, but it might be a sibling, it might be a best friend, but there's this sense of connection, a sense of communication, which I really, really like. So that's really, really helpful as well. We've also got the South Node in a trine to the Sun and also to Uranus. So, you know, there's this sense of almost celebrating the past, you know, like looking back and kind of celebrating how you've evolved, and like feeling the grace of your evolution, feeling the, you know, like seeing your whole pattern, almost like you're like rising above your body and looking down on your life and being able to see all the different parts of it from your childhood right up to this point right now. And you can clearly see all the different phases, the upsets, the healing moments, the releases, and all the adventures. And you can see it all as a narrative. I think that's kind of helpful. You know, and Uranus in the South Node, I think, is really helping you to see that there are some things from the past and you're happy to let them go now. You know, and I think it helps you to see that your life is an adventure. And sometimes, you know, the adventure can be quite intense, and of course, sometimes it can really change us, which is, I think, this Pluto and Uranus trine, which has been going on for months and months now. and it's going to persist for quite some time more. But Pluto, very much about the transformation of humanity, where we can see, that the darkness that has held us in place, our own darkness. It also shows where we try to actively control things to make things work for us. But it's always revealing to us where we've been frightened, because it's only when we are in fear that we want to control things. Because if there wasn't a fear, we wouldn't need to control anything. So Pluto's showing us where we're trying to control things to alleviate our fears. But his connection to Uranus is showing that there are so many different ways that we can find freedom. I think this is helping us feel strong enough to know that any fear that can come up, we are resourceful enough to deal with it. So it's almost like trust in yourself. And as you trust in your unique abilities that might have developed from birth, your unique abilities that have led you on this path, have given you every single tool that you've ever needed to deal with these times as they are appearing. So yeah, this is really such a strong time. And then we've got these really helpful sextiles, which are building blocks. So I've put in a hexagon even, because, it shows us this shape, this line and these angles. But these are like the building blocks, really, really helping us. So, we've got this lovely sense of Pluto and Saturn, Pluto and Neptune, Pluto and Venus all helping each other. So we're able to find control in ourselves and not need to control things, but we can feel a lot more balanced in ourselves in different ways. And then Neptune and Saturn and the North Node connecting to the Sun is really showing us that we can find balance, patience, imagination, and a sense of destiny, like a sense of direction. So these are all working together in a really cool place, in a really cool way. So let's have a look at some of the asteroids that are coming up. So at the time of this full moon in Scorpio, we've got Aphrodite in a conjunction with the Sun. We've got Narcissus in a conjunction with the Moon. And we've also got Chariklo, Centaur, and Pallas Athene together in a square. So these are the ones that are mainly playing into this particular full moon. So let's get a feel for their messages and how they might tie in with this. So then this is where I'd recommend having a look at Alex's Asteroid Astrology. It's a really good website. I came across it, I think 7 years ago. I've even shared a few emails with him quite a few years ago. But Alex, he's looked at lots and lots of different named asteroids, and he studies them. So when there's a world event, something going on, he sees which asteroids are playing into things. And it's so funny how the stories seem to play out. It's incredible. So anyway, this is actually from his website. Narcissus, that's the asteroid number, in case you want to look it up on astro.com. But it's an exaggerated self-focus, an inability to see others' points of view or consider their needs, because there's an excessive pride in one's appearance and a rejection of others' loves. Now, if I just scale that back a little bit, Narcissus was rumored to be so in love with himself, and he was kind of cursed. He was, I don't know how he came to be by the river, but he fell in love with his reflection. He loved himself so much that all he could see was himself, and he fell in love with himself, with the reflection of his beautiful face in this particular river or lake. And then he couldn't do anything. He was like just cursed to love himself. And so you can see with that there's an inability to accept anything from anyone else, because he is just focused on himself. So, when I was talking earlier about the planetary movements and how it seems that, to be able to move on and heal ourselves, we need to focus on ourselves. It's kind of funny that Narcissus is showing our exaggerated self-focus may well be playing into what's going on with this full moon. And like I said, I think it can really, really help us with this yod between Chiron and Jupiter and the moon. I think this can really help us, to really focus on ourselves finally. But I guess the big question is, can we move on from ourselves after this full moon? I'm hoping we can. I'm sure we can. Aphrodite then, Now, again, she's an asteroid, and Aphrodite and Venus, they're very, very similar. One's Roman and one's Greek. So we use Venus, and obviously we've got Venus here in the chart at 8 degrees in the sign of Aries. So Venus we see as a planet of love. Now, Aphrodite is known as being a bit more fickle, a bit more about the sort of beauty and a bit more sort of flirtatious. And here's what Alex's asteroid astrology said. Represents fleeting passion, flirtation, illicit affairs, vanity, fickleness, capriciousness, I love that word, or changeability, vacillation, indecisiveness, and conceit. So it's really, it really sort of paints a picture of Aphrodite being a little bit vacuous, a little bit shallow. So not so much about the richness of love, but more about the emptiness of beauty, the emptiness of things. And so it's interesting. Aphrodite is very, very close to the sun at this moment in time, and also Uranus. And, given that the sun and Uranus are also working quite well with the South Node, really showing what we might be letting go of at this time of the full moon. It's interesting, isn't it? That on the one hand, we've got this kind of vacuous, shallow kind of character, maybe connected to the past. And also we've got this intense self-love. So it's like this self-love on each side. Now, both of these self-loves are really described in a kind of negative way, one being sort of vain, like you're so vain really comes to mind. And also you're so vain comes to mind with Narcissus as well. So I think this full moon may well shake us out of any false vanity that we have about ourselves, because I think, the vanity is what keeps us separated from people. However, it's okay to focus on ourselves if it's, if our desire is to move beyond ourselves. So really what I'm seeing with this full moon is it's moving us beyond where we've been, possibly where we've trapped ourselves, where we've not noticed, we've been sleeping on our own karmic job. So it's interesting. And then we've got this square from Chariklo. Now she's a centaur. She was married to Chiron. So it's interesting that we've got Chariklo here. She's really, really lovely. She's a healer like Chiron is, but she's a lot more magical, a lot more feminine. And she's about awakening the magical, feminine, shamanic healer within us, the desire to lift us up and also to lift others up as well. She's not about aggrandizing herself and letting everyone else be poorly or sick or somehow in shame, but she is a shamanic healer. She's healing us and helping us heal each other. She's beautiful and she's magical. She's cosmic. She's not so worried about what's going on around us in the physical. She's more about our spiritual journey. So it's interesting. She's at this kind of breaking point. This is how we can come out of the shallowness and the vanity that maybe has kept us trapped in patterns. Now, truthfully, I don't think any of us are. I think it's really hard to stay very, very vain and not to be of service to other people in this life. I think people who really are truly, truly vain and only about vanity and not giving back to other people, I think people start to move away from them. We start to move away from people that are all about themselves, but not about everyone else. And so I do think whatever is going on around this time, it's going to really blow up ideas of vanity and service to self versus service to everyone. So Chariklo here, I think is really, really lovely. So, if you're using this full moon to any good for yourself, I would say, this is connecting you to a more magical you, like the potential of awakening in a much more beautiful way. And it's kind of all of the scales of the past are kind of being shaken off you. I really like this. And it's also in a conjunction to Pallas Athene. So that's also feminine core strategy. So the femininity within us is coming forwards, but it's strategic, it's cool. So it's not influenced by too much emotion. And because it can see things that other parts of ourselves can't see. I think it's helping us to move beyond the patterns we've got caught in. So what I really see with this is, whatever seems false or fake about us is about to drop away. And anything we've been attached to do with the false narratives of ourselves and in our lives, it's dropping away, and we're realizing that we are powerful in ourselves. Like this Mars-Pluto opposition is like shaking free. We are coming to the conclusion that we can do this ourselves. And when we are working for ourselves, we're actually working for everyone. It's there's so many themes coming up again, like service to self, service to others, and also fake and very real narratives that are coming up. Where have we been attached to thoughts that seem very, very fake or that are diminishing humans? That's what's really coming up for me. So anyway, these two Sabian symbols, I want to share these. So this is the one for the Scorpio moon. It's called a rabbit metamorphosed into a fairy or a nature spirit. So this symbol shows ascension or evolution to higher states of being. You may find yourself having a transformative realization that will take your focus away from the baser animal instincts to a more evolved, higher spiritual perception. This can lead to having higher codes of living, operating on elevated planes of being. Coming to terms with one's vital energies can free you up to find a higher state of being. This can feel like a metamorphosis, like you're morphing into someone different, perhaps someone quite unique from others. Ascension in consciousness is likely to be happening. Enjoy the ride. So that really sort of matches what I've been saying, funnily enough. The revelation of hidden talents, which really fits in when I was talking about Dr. Dane here. What if the wrongness of you is the rightness of you? What if all those things you've hidden about yourself is actually what really needs to come out? Moving into a whole new level of existence and being, vegetarianism, elementals, nature, spirits and fairies, evolution, complete changes. So again, this full moon is emphasizing changes. And then what the position that the sun is in is showing a jewelry shop filled with the most magnificent jewels. This symbol points to an abundance of beauty, talent, riches, and potentiality. This degree brings the message of admiring the achievements of others, whilst also allowing yours to be recognized and admired as well. Realize that what you need is either at hand or soon will be. You have everything you need, basically. Also, something you create can last way beyond your own years. Believing in yourself and those around you can bring a wonderful sense of reward and fulfillment. Try wearing special jewelry to remind you of your self-worth, talent, ability, and beauty. Great talent, wealth, rewards, gifts within, materialization of perfection and superficial looks. So if I go back to the original full moon in Scorpio message, like this chart, from here to here, this is emphasizing the full metamorphosis of ourselves. It is showing us, and also this Pluto and Mars opposition that Mars is leading us out of. This is showing us how we get free from ourselves and how we realize that we've always had what we've always needed. And because of the asteroids as well, I think it's showing us that anything that appears to us as shallow is possibly not really us. It's, maybe something that we've attached to just, without really thinking. And it's really showing us that we're coming into ourselves. So I'm really, really excited by this. Now, I do already talk about some of the energies of the full moon in Scorpio. I released a couple of videos, actually 12 of them, like one for every sign of the zodiac. So if you haven't seen it already, you might still find this useful. We're only halfway through this forecast period. We're halfway through. It's the 5th today. And this full moon is happening on the 12th. So if you want to hear more about how that might affect your particular star sign or your ascendant sign, check those out. And then on the 12th of May, there will be another forecast taking you from the full moon to the new moon in Gemini. Wow, that was a bit of a deep dive. So I think it's really interesting that Aphrodite and Narcissus were sort of in opposition, and also with the sun and the moon, really showing, a side of us that maybe was pleasing to be seen, was beautiful, but that maybe there's more to us than meets the eye. And I think that's one of the purposes of this particular full moon, it's really bringing up the truth of us. It's really bringing up the power that really resides within us. And it might not be something that looks great. It might not be something that's popular. It might be something much deeper. So I wonder how you're awakening to the you that you were maybe afraid to show. Let's find out. But anyway, have a great full moon. If I can be of any help, if you want to dive into this by me looking at your chart, then just get in touch. All of my details are below. But anyway, have a great full moon. Take care and catch you another time. Lots of love. Bye for now.